The Astros have spent more than the Yankees this offseason, but there's a lot of talk about why the Astros aren't going out spending more money. Are they still talking to some free agent relief pitchers? We're going to discuss this on tonight's edition of Locked On Astros.
Welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You find me on X at Eric Talkstros. You find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can I find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on X, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros.
Guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go and subscribe to us. Go and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify. Wherever you listen to podcasts, go and check out the Locked On Astros podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. So, Brett, I know that this was something that was caused fans a little bit of worry last year, but would we be able to see the Astros on TV? Because some of the teams actually lost their rights to be able to show the teams. But the Astros found a way to make that happen. But now that they're trying to start this new mega station with the Rockets, there are some some training wheels they're going to have to go through. And part of it is costing them a lot of money. And that's what's going to happen. And could that be the reason why they're having a slow offseason so far? So what's the future for the Astros? Are they going to go all in? Are they going to go over the CBT? And we've heard a lot of talk about trading Framber Valdez. Please tell me that's not going to happen. I mean, you've got to try to win right now, right? So you don't trade your ace when you're trying to win another World Series, right?
Well, I think, look, yes, you are right. If you're in a win now mode, which I think they're in, and I'll kind of address that later on when we kind of break down more of the financial aspect of it, because there is a financial component to this. The optimal thing is you look at the lineup, they're going to be better in 2024 than they were this last year. There's no way that all the guys that struggled last year will struggle this year. You've got Brian Abreu coming back. You've got Ryan Presley. They're still talking to, Neris and even Hicks. If they get those guys, I think their bullpen is one of the best. And you don't blow up a team that can go back in 2024, get back to the LCS for their 8th straight time, get back to the World Series and possibly win it. But what I would say is if you can trade Framber and you can get another pitcher, trade with another contender and get somebody else of substantial worth at the major league level, maybe get some prospects out of it, it might not be a bad idea, but you have to ensure that the return would replace someone like Framber, because you don't know how Garcia is going to be when he comes back. You don't know how Lance McCullers is going to be when they come back, and they don't come back till July. Hunter Brown, does he get it done in a full season? And now that he's got this last year under his belt, it really all depends on the performance. And it also depends on, injuries. Will the Astros settle with Framber, the 16.2, whatever he's due in arbitration? They probably will. I just think, to make a long story short, if you can win now by trading Framber and getting something back substantial in return, then you look at doing it. But if not, and if you don't think Bregman or Tucker are going to be re-signed and only Altuve is going to be re-signed, then you keep Framber on board and you hope that he has his best year yet.
Yeah, I think it's only 11.6 for Framber Valdez.
11.6. Like okay. I think I flipped the one. Yeah, I knew it was somewhere around there. So, yeah, thank you.
All right. So, but basically, what's going on is because they left AT&T Southwest Sportsnet in December, they are losing $73 million in broadcasting rights. So, once they own their own network with the Rockets, they're going to likely get about $50 million per year as a channel as it starts. But that revenue will continue to grow as they have more programming and more advertising. And so you're basically starting from the ground floor. And that's what the Astros have to kind of realize. So they are losing that 73 million. I'm sure they had to pay some type of I know that there's revenue sharing in baseball, and I'm sure they had to pay for that. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that the Astros had to do, and they did not win a World Series this year. And so, unfortunately, you didn't have that extra revenue coming in from winning a championship. So this is something that Jim Crane is having to address, and he is not. He's not cheap out there, and I've seen a lot of people say that he's poor. He's not poor. He's worth $1.6 billion. And so he's not being frugal. He's not just saying, oh, you know what, we're not going to go over the CBT. But there are some other ramifications. And who knows if the Astros need something, like you said, they're still talking Jordan Hicks and Neris. If they need something at the trade deadline, I'm sure that Jim Crane will give the go ahead. But at the end of the year, if they're over that $237 million threshold, they're going to have to pay 20% of that of the overage, and then also lose some draft picks, everything like that. So Jim Crane is trying to thread the needle, so to speak. And even we've heard it from Dana Brown when he said, actually, it was 12.1 million for Farmer Valdez. We're both wrong, but close enough. So, but Dana Brown did say that the financial situation was a little tough. He didn't have that big a budget to work with. And so now we have a kind of a better idea why they are maybe hurting for some money right now. They're not poor, they're hurting for some money.
Right. No, right. And that's what we have to be careful in this conversation is you have people that are taking it to one extreme. Oh, well, Jim Crane doesn't have any money. No, look, let me be clear. Jim Crane is a billionaire. He's not hurting for money. If Jim Crane wanted to pull money out of his pocket right now and drop $200-300 million contracts on players, he absolutely could if he wanted to. He doesn't want to, but like was shared with me before all this stuff started coming out from Roman from these guys was that I knew that the Astros were taking this $20 million hit. You look at the $73 million cost, and then they'll only make 50. That's like a $20 to $23 million loss. That's a big loss. And also there's a 15%, Eric, that goes to the commissioner's office when you get that. So on top of like revenue sharing, there's that, you have that percentage that goes to the league. And so there are a lot more monies that go out than what a lot of fans think. We as fans think, I buy a $25,000 Coke. I buy I'm joking. I buy like a $15 Coke. I buy nachos and a margarita. I buy a jersey. I drop $500 at a game. And of course they have money. Well, they have to have money because I get overcharged and everything. But all those gate receipts are going out with this stuff. And so things aren't as fluid and as liquid as you would think they are. Jim Crane does have the money, but he's not Steinbrenner. He's not Cohen. And why would we be Steinbrenner or Cohen? What have Steinbrenner and Cohen done to show their level of success? The last time the Yankees won was, I've almost forgotten, that 2009 World Series, because you can't buy championships. The only team to break that curb really was the Rangers. And let me tell you something, guys. The Rangers are in financial trouble. The Rangers are not going to be in a good place in the next couple of years. They have put themselves behind the 8 ball. They may be a one and done type of team. I don't see the Rangers making multiple runs of the World Series. I see them being in not necessarily financial peril, but their financial purse strings are going to get really tight really quickly because they just dropped $800 million in 2 seasons, and there's no way you can sustain those kind of payrolls, especially with the stars they have coming up, the young players, the minor leaguers that are really good in their system. There's no way you can hold on to all that. So it's going to catch up to them sooner rather than later. I like the sustainability of the Rockets. I still think they've got another couple of years left in this run.
Yeah, definitely. So in a second, we'll go and talk about what Jim Crane and the Astros have done since 2019. And we'll go ahead and continue this conversation. What does it mean for the future of the Astros? What path are they going to take? And does that include trading from Valdez?
Yeah, that's right. Oh. That's right. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. The NFL season is rolling, and the Texans won a massive game with the walk-off kickoff. That's right. They kicked a field goal, won the game 19-16 over the Titans, who tried to shame the city of Houston, reminding us of the Oilers of the past. Well, they lost like the Oilers of the past. They couldn't hold on to the lead. And if you would have bet $5 on the money line bet and you bet the Texans, you would have gotten $150 back in bonus bets. That's right. And if you've been thinking about it, waiting around, what should I do? Well, it's time to take action, because I can tell you that the app is easy to use. It has a wide range of betting options, spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and keep the NFL season rolling, because the playoffs are right around the corner. The Texans are on the bubble. And this next week, they've got the Cleveland Browns coming to town. The Texans start out as a 1.5-point favorite. So go check that out. Go to FanDuel. It's the official partner of the NFL.
All right, guys, why don't you go ahead and check out Locked On today? It's the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7 with all the top stories of today, from local experts like us at Locked On Astros, plus all the national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right. So a lot of people have talked about what's going on with the Astros and saying that that Jim Crane's frugal, but we have to understand what they've been doing since 2019. They have had a payroll of above $200 million, and it's been within exceeding the CBT, in 2019, they almost exceeded it by, I think they finished at 203, but it was the threshold that year was 206. They would have exceeded it in 2020, but thankfully there was the lockout. I mean, not the lockout, but bad way to say
I know
it,
what you
but
mean. It was a
for the
shortened season.
Astros, yeah, it was
The shortened season kept them out of there.
pandemic, yes. So they didn't have to pay luxury tax they didn't have to pay luxury tax that year. But the Astros have been kind of just skirting the CBT. And last year, they didn't. In 2022, when they won the World Series, they're actually 20 million below the CBT. So they did so without having to exceed. Now you have all these contracts that are coming up. You have Alex Bregman, you have Jose Altuve, you have Kyle Tucker, you have Framber Valdez. Then you have some other people down the line that eventually are going to need to get paid. And so the question is, the Astros are already, depending on where you're looking at, but they're already reportedly going to be over the CBT as is, not by a lot, but enough to say they're over it. How do we see this maybe TV deal kind of affecting the Astros' chances to extend one of their stars?
Well, I think at the end of the day, if you make the calculation that extending a star makes you better and a more profitable team down the road, then you absolutely go ahead and do it and play the long game. And that's why you do that. But Eric, I just want to say this. The word frugal is the right word here. I think cheap is the word that people are using. Cheap and frugal to me are two different things. To me, frugal means you're just watching your wallet. You're watching your budget. I am not the budget-minded person in my household. I see a new hat, I want to buy it. I see something I like, I want to buy it. I would probably be a terrible MLB owner, because I would bankrupt the team with our first year's payroll, no doubt. I would go get Yamamoto. I'd go get I would just spend, right? And of course, they'd probably fire me the next year. But I think the way that this TV deal affects it depends on the success of the TV deal. What are they going to offer in the way of streaming? How much is it going to cost people per month? Are people going to pay just to watch the Astros and the Rockets? Because this seems like it's a streaming service that is separate from You don't have to have an AT&T subscription. You don't have to have Dish Network or DirecTV. You can literally just get the Space City Home Network app, or you can be a member and log online and watch it streamed online or wherever you're at. So if it's $30, $40 a month, and if people latch onto it and it's a success, then there you go. I think it works, but you have to play the long game here, because the bottom line is, who are you going to sign? And I'll be real honest. I think Altuve is all but a done deal. Obviously, it's not done, but I think he is for sure the nail in the coffin with him. I think Bregman walks. Unfortunately, I think Tucker walks. Unless Crane has a change of heart. I don't see him changing with Bregman, but I hate saying that, because a corner infielder is a lot tougher to find than an outfielder. No offense to Kyle Tucker, but that's how I see this TV deal affecting it. It will have a positive effect, but you won't see it for a couple years. It's going to be an investment. On top of that, you're going to have other expenses that are going to be out there. They're going to have this new entertainment facility they're going to add to Minute Maid. So that'll help out as well. So the revenue is going to be there. It just, if you want to keep the revenue in question, then yeah, you just go sign everybody you want. And then now you put this team, not just set them up for financial failure now, but down the road, can Dana Brown, if he gets a good draft pick, can he sign these draft picks? And it affects everything. The snowball gets bigger as it rolls down the hill, and that's what you got to avoid, is like an avalanche, basically.
Yes. So if you're looking at the luxury tax threshold, Roster Resources has it about 237 let's say 4 million. Then you have Spotrac, they have it at 237.4 million, which is basically like what, 400,000 or million or thousand, 400,000 over basically the CBT as is. So that's depending on what they have to pay the arbitration eligible players. That includes all the people that have to go to arbitration, all the non-arbitration people. So there's a lot of different ways that they can try to wiggle under this. So what that makes me think is, if they're trying to get below the CBT, you might have them a lot more arbitration hearings this time around, because you might see them trying to maybe save a penny here or there, versus in the past where they've been kind of a little bit more, I guess they've always been kind of a file and trial type of organization that just files and just goes to arbitration, sees what happened. But I just think that the Astros are going to find some way to get underneath that luxury tax threshold. If they are in competition for the World Series come trade deadline, Jim Crane's going to say, hey, let's do it. Let's go ahead and go above and beyond and get what it takes to get done. They did that with Zach Greinke. And so I just think that right now they're just trying to, while they have time, they're trying to figure out a way to maybe not have to pay that tax, because it's not just about the money, but it's also about the penalties and everything that comes along with it, including draft picks and international bonus money, that type of stuff. You're muted.
Sorry. So one of the points I made online when I tweeted about this the other day was, I said, here are the possibilities that you have with the Astros. You go all in the next few years, you try to win, and then you let guys walk after that, and then you start the rebuild then. You could trade guys now and stopgap the rebuild from being too long. You go ahead and start that rebuild early. You see how the season is going this year, and if the season's not going the way you want it to, things are falling apart, then you can also do some trading by the trade deadline, or you can just say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and sign these guys. We're going to go against the grain of what we've normally done, and we're going to keep Bregman, Altuve, and Tucker around. I don't think they do this with Framber as well. There's so many different ways you can go with this, but we know what Crane's propensity and Crane leads towards: being frugal, saving money. And it's worked. I keep seeing these lists of teams that have spent more than the Astros. And I'm like, but none of those teams except for one or two, have won titles. One of them I think is the Braves, and one of them's the Dodgers, and the Dodgers only won 2020. And so the Dodgers are, well, right. We're right, the Rangers, but it's so funny when you see Dodgers Nation talk about 2017, like they can't even mention the 2020 World Series. They still go back and talk about how their feelings are hurt from 2017. It's almost like they skip over 2020. But then when you try to tell them that was a 60-game World Series, they're like, don't delegitimize. I'm like, but y'all never talk about it. So at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting. And if you thought that you wanted to be an owner of a Major League Baseball team, go ahead, have at it, because it seems like it is not that easy. It's not as simple as spending money like Yamamoto. I'm not going to say go get him anymore. You know why? Because this dude's going to cost $300 million. If we're having a hard time paying our guys, there's no way we're paying a guy. And you know what? He hasn't played against Major League pitching and hitting. I mean, hitting day in and day out. He has in the World Baseball Classic, but he hasn't done it. So there's no guarantee of success for a player of that cost. So good luck to those who find him.
All right. So, yes, sorry I pressed that button a little too soon there, but guys, thank you for using Locked On Astros podcast, your first listen every day. Go and make your second listen Locked On Sports Today. It's a 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So, Brett, I do want to go ahead and bring up the whole thing that you kind of brought up about maybe not only extending Altuve. So Bregman, I think that replacing him is going to be a little bit harder than a lot of people think. He's become a team leader. He is somebody that the Astros, I think, will be a different team without. Since he's come up, the Astros have been to the World Series, not World Series, but ALCS every year. So this guy is a proven leader. Yes, he has not always had the best seasons, but this guy is somebody you can't easily replace. But that's what Dana Brown was brought here to do, to find the next Kyle Tucker, to find the next Alex Bregman. And you're going to do that through the draft. And you're probably not going to see a lot more big name free agents coming to Houston for a little bit, just because I think the Astros are going to be trying to stay underneath that luxury tax threshold, and they're going to be a little bit more frugal with who they give their money to. And so you brought up Neris and Jordan Hicks. I think that one of those two guys would be a perfect fit for the Astros if they can afford it. But if you're going to rob Peter, you're going to have to pay Paul somehow.
Well, but my thing is, though, if it's a relief pitcher, even if he wants 3 years, paying them 15 or 16 million or whatever it's going to be is not going to be the thing that keeps you from signing one other player. I think if you have the money set aside for Altuve, you have that done. You sign Hicks. I think you can probably get Neris on a little bit more friendly deal because he's played with the team. Maybe you can find it and find it in your heart to get paid less and all that stuff. But to me, if the Astros are already over the CBT, you might as well go over it a little bit more. And why not do it with someone who's a relief pitcher? I just, can you imagine if they locked up Hicks and Neris in a surprise twist? Wow, that would be crazy. Now, I don't think they do, but this bullpen would absolutely be top notch and one of the best. But even with losing the guys they've lost, I don't think Montero has as bad a year as he had last year. I think he is a good year, bad year kind of guy, and I think he's due for a good year this next year. And so if you get more out of Montero, Eric, that'll be a plus. But to circle back to your first point, it is absolutely difficult to replace Alex Bregman. You're not going to. You're going to platoon somebody there. You're going to, if Julks is still on the roster, you're going to have a Julks there. You're going to bring up Wagner. You're going to bring up Whitcomb. You're going to bring up DeCenzo. You're going to have different guys, and it might be a little bit of a turnstile until you find someone permanent. Who knows? Maybe one of these four guys that I mentioned surprises the heck out of us, and like DeCenzo comes up and is ready sooner rather than later. But the microscope's going to be on them. There's going to be a lot of pressure. You need someone to come in that's going to take the reins like Jeremy Pena did, because he did what very few rookies do, replace a perennial all-star, a platinum glove winner, to go on to be the ALCS and World Series MVP the fall, that same season. There's a lot of moving parts here, but Bregman, unless he comes down on his price, of course, he hasn't officially set his price. I just don't see Crane going 300. And they've already said, we're taking the money that we have and we're putting over here for, it says Jose Altuve. It's kind of like when Walter White had that big storage unit and he was laundering money, right? He had that, like, you open the storage unit, and when his wife was like, look, here's all the money. He's like, what's this? She goes, this is all the money we're making that you're having me launder through this car wash. And Walter White didn't realize how many millions and millions of dollars he had, right? I think they have like a stack of money in a storage shed that says Jose Altuve. Nobody else,
Yeah, just to kind of give y'all an idea, let's say that they sign one of those relievers for $8 million. I'm just talking about 2023. I'm not talking, 2024. I'm not talking about the years beyond. So if you do that for 1 year for $8 million, then you're going to be, you're going over the CBT. That's 20% you have to pay. So that's $1.6 million that Jim Crane did not have to pay. Now he's having to pay for. So if you sign a player for $10 million, that's going to be like basically $2 million. So it's basically extra money that you have to pay. And so I think what Jim Crane and the Astros are looking at is they're like, we don't mind paying it, but we just want to make sure it's for the right player and for the right situation. Because right now, we don't know. I know the Astros are the fourth favorite to go back to the World Series or win a World Series next year with the team they have now. But just imagine what happens if they're terrible. Everything falls apart. They don't want to be over the CBT at that time.
But I don't think they're going to be terrible. I mean, Eric,
I know.
This offense is going to be so much better. You have Yiner at catcher. There's no way Pena replicates last year. I think Chaz is probably going to get more playing time this year, even though he's not going to be in center field. And I think, look, Jake Myers, if he doesn't come out swinging the bat hot, he's probably going to get replaced. And we've got the opportunity to see someone like Alo Perfito possibly come up and contribute. But I think this offense and this team is better going into next year than they were last year. And so, unless it's injuries,
Brett, my point was that he's not going to make that call until he absolutely has to, or he's absolutely sure, because he's a businessman. And part of being a businessman is taking risk. So he's going to wait till he knows for sure that his team is a winner and around the trade deadline before he makes that call. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Jim Crane, you can go ahead and bookmark it. I said it on December 18th, 7:43 p.m. Monday. Y'all are going to win the West. The Astros, this is our division, and we're going back to the ALCS for an 8th straight time. And bookmark this too. The Astros are going to be in the World Series next year. I mean, I'm that confident in what this club has. I don't think the Rangers replicate what they did last year.
All right. So speaking of Rangers, they're going to be without Max Scherzer for about half the season. So that's going to be a big loss for them. I think it was a back injury. He's something that he kind of felt through the playoffs, but as he went home, it just started getting worse. So he had to have back surgery. So that is a big loss for the Rangers, but they do have some other, and Martin Perez just signed somewhere else today. So, so there is maybe some holes in the Rangers rotation, but as Chris Young said, they have unfinished business. I still don't get that. What unfinished business do you have, Chris Young? I mean, you just won the freaking World Series. What else do you got to do? Did you forget to go to Disneyland?
Act like you've been there before, Chris Young. And you know what? Quit telling radio stations you hate Houston. You're a GM. And by the way, that wooden plaque that has all the cities in Texas on it that doesn't have Houston on it, I'm really tempted to grab a Sharpie and write the word Houston on that plaque next time I'm in Arlington. I'm just saying, I might do that.
Okay. You heard it here first on the Locked On Astros podcast. And guys, thank you for making the Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go and subscribe to us. Go and give us a big fat thumbs up and make us your first listen and become an everyday or somebody that listens to our podcast every day. We'll be back. I'm not sure if tomorrow or the next day, but we'll definitely be talking more Astros offseason with you because we enjoy doing it. My name's Eric Huysman. He is Brett Chancey, and we are the Locked On Astros podcast. And go Astros.
We're